I really appreciate you having me this morning. It's a real treat for me. Just last week, it was in Mayanne Watson's small group that she said, "Hey, will you come to my small group and I want to do an exercise. Would you participate in this exercise with us?" And I said, "I'm glad to do that." But right after large group gathering here, though, I had a meeting, and so I said, "I can come after my meeting. I'll come after my meeting to your small group gathering." And she said, "Okay, that'd be fine. Just poke your head in and see what's going on, and I'll join you then." And so apparently, what she told her small group people, women, was that I've got a surprise for you. And then I showed up, and even one of them said, "Are you the surprise?" It was the tone of there's disappointment in that question mark. And to be fair, I don't think they were disappointed with that wanting someone else. I think they were hoping for something else, like cupcakes or cookies. When you say we're going to have a surprise, it could be anything. And if it's just someone you always get to hear from, what kind of surprise is that? So all that to say, thank you for having me. I really enjoy doing this, and I hope you'll enjoy what we're talking about today. We're in John chapter 15, and in your text or in your workbooks, we're going all the way through verse 17. There's so much here. There really is so much here, and I think you're going to be no shortage of conversation. There's going to be no shortage of conversation in your small groups because there is a lot here. And I even joked with Dee Dee beforehand that maybe we need to stop for Q&A right afterwards. But we'll proceed. And if you have questions, don't hesitate. I'm happy to entertain those as we proceed. So, what do you think of when I say the word Israel? What do you think of? What comes to mind? It could be any number of things, right? You may be thinking of something from antiquity, be thinking of something ancient, something biblical, Israel. Others of you might be thinking of more current events, the current nation that's embattled in conflict in the Middle East. All kinds of thoughts, feelings, and imagery may come to mind when I say Israel. But let me ask you this. What is the true Israel? What is the true Israel? What is the true Israel? John 15 opens with these words, "I am the true vine." I'm the true vine. Now, I want you to understand something right here from the onset. Right as we jump into chapter 15, I told you we could spend forever on John chapter 15. And right here, it's a showstopper, right from the beginning. I'm the true vine. You'll read that passage, and you may have the temptation to think, like so many other things in the Bible, oh, this is a nice metaphor that maybe Jesus is thinking up in the moment, spontaneously. I'm like a vine, but I'm a true vine. But you have to understand that this is not just a convenient metaphor. Those 5 words, I am the true vine, it's as if Jesus has just dropped a bomb on the disciples. I am the true vine. When Jesus says I am the true vine, believe it or not, it wouldn't have been much different than had he said, I am the true Israel. It would not have been much different. And the disciples would have understood this too. They were good students of the word, and they would recall passages like, I think this is in your workbook, Psalm 80. Psalm 80, where Israel is likened to a vineyard. Listen to this. Psalm 80, verses 8 to 11. You brought a vine out of Egypt. You drove out the nations and planted it. You cleared the ground for it. It took deep root and filled the land. The mountains were covered with its shade, the mighty cedars with its branches. It sent out its branches to the sea and its shoots to the river. This is a picturesque description of the loving manner in which the Lord brought Israel out of Egypt and into the promised land. That's what you have in Psalm 80 here. How he set aside this people, gave them provision. He cared for them. But listen to this. Listen to how the psalmist continues, verses 12 and 13, speaking of this vineyard. Why then have you broken down its walls, so that all who pass along the way pluck its fruit? The boar from the forest ravages it, and all that move in the field feed on it. In other words, this vineyard, Israel, it's been decimated. It's been torn up. Why would the Lord allow this to happen? Why would he allow this vineyard to go through something like this? Listen to this. This is Isaiah 5, verses 1 and 2. Isaiah 5, 1 and 2. Let me sing for my beloved my love song concerning his vineyard. This is Isaiah the prophet speaking. Now he's speaking about the vineyard. Beloved vineyard. My beloved had a vineyard on a very fertile hill. He dug it and cleared it of its stones and planted it with choice vines. He built a watchtower in the midst of it and hewed out a wine vat in it. Now listen to this. Listen to what the Lord's expectation was for this vineyard that he planted. He looked for it to yield grapes. He looked for it to yield fruit. He wanted to see fruit come forth from this vineyard. He wanted Israel to produce fruit, good fruit, life-giving fruit. But what happened? Continuing verse 2, but it yielded wild grapes. It yielded wild grapes. You see what we're being told here? Israel is likened to a vine or a vineyard, and the Lord planted it, calling for it to be fruitful, a light to the nations around it, but instead of yielding fruit, it yielded wild fruit. It yielded sour fruit. The vineyard was overrun by animals. Instead of being a light on a hill, it was seduced by the religious practices of the neighboring nations. They were unfaithful to the Lord. They were rebellious to the Lord and turned their backs on him. Israel was not a good vineyard. Okay? It was a bad vineyard. So given that, do you see how shocking it would be for Jesus to come right out and tell the disciples, I'm the true vine. I'm the true vine, he says. To be the true vine, Jesus is saying, I'm the faithful vine. It's almost like Jesus is telling his disciples, I'm the real Israel. I'm the real Israel. Do you see what an earthquake this is for the disciples who likely grew up learning to be a Jew, to be an Israelite? That's a good thing. To be Israel is to be God's chosen. I'm already in. You know, I've got a ticket to where I need to go because I'm a part of Israel. And then Jesus says, but I'm the true Israel. I'm the true Israel. So if I'm a disciple of Jesus, I'm going to ask, if he's the true Israel, well, what is that saying about the other Israel? The only Israel I've ever known. If he's the true Israel, what am I a part of? The false Israel? It's not that Israel is false. It's that Israel is unfaithful. He's true, and Israel is unfaithful. Jesus is the true, the faithful Israel, in that he fulfilled all the things that the nation Israel couldn't do. Jesus is the Israel that Israel couldn't be. Okay, so what was Israel supposed to be? Think about that for a second. What was Israel supposed to be? Yes, as we read in Psalm 80 and even in Isaiah 5, a light on a hill, a light to the neighboring nations. But what does all that mean? What was Israel's purpose? To give you an idea, right now the church has engaged in discussions with an architect. And we're thinking about long-term building plans. You know, what might it look for you all, for instance, not to have to gather in the corner of the lobby behind a screen? What if there was an actual classroom space? What if there was dedicated place for special needs, for our special needs ministry, rather than having Gigi and her team push carts all around, trying to keep up with our friends with special needs? What if we started dreaming about that? And so we've talked to an architect, and eventually that architect will start creating detailed plans. Right now we're just in the dreaming phase. But eventually they'll start coming up with plans, with blueprints. And nowadays, with the way that technology is developing, you can get really detailed looking 3D models of what is going to be perhaps just right out there on the lawn, or right over here on this the west side over here, east side over here. I never can remember. You know, and we'll be able to see, they'll be able to pull up a video and say, this is what it's going to look like when you approach the campus, and you'll see all the new facilities that we have and all the ministry that can take place in these buildings. We can I can see it, and we'll say, I can see what it's going to look like once it's complete. I can have a visualization of it. Now, can you imagine how absurd it would be if we told the architect, you know what? Thank you for making this model. It's so lifelike. We look at the video, it's perfect. We're good. We're good with that. You don't need to build a building. We're very happy with the video that you've made that helps us visualize what might be. Thank you. Thank you for that. That'd be crazy, right? Please say yes, right? Because the model in no way, shape, or form can do what we set out to do in the beginning. What did we set out to do in the beginning? The model just pointed to what would one day be the true thing. A structure that we could actually utilize for ministry. What was Israel's purpose? Was Israel a model? Or maybe a pointer to a final, finished, true product? Let me back up some more. Adam and Eve. That's pretty far back, isn't it? In the garden, they broke the world. They broke the world. Sin came into the world, and with it, everything bad that has ever been and will be. But when the fall of humanity occurred, the Lord, from all eternity, had a plan in place to redeem the world, to fix what Adam and Eve broke. He had that in place from all eternity. See if you can wrap your mind around that. And in the same chapter where we read about the fall of man, Genesis 3, we also read about that plan that he had in place. And it began to work out in time immediately after the fall of our first parents. The gospel was proclaimed in Genesis 3:15, that same chapter where we read about the fall of Adam and Eve. He told the serpent, from the offspring of the woman, from Eve, would come someone who would fix what we broke, who would bruise the serpent's head. Through her offspring, the Lord would fix what was broken. The blueprints have been drawn. Now, then we fast forward a few generations. The Lord made a promise, a covenant to Abraham, which further pronounced what he already said in the garden. It's just restating it again. He told Abraham, beginning in Genesis 12, repeating it in 15 and 17, the Lord promised Abraham that through him, through his offspring, all the families of the earth shall be blessed. In other words, Abraham, through your offspring, I'm going to fix the world. I'm going to redeem the world and fix what was broken in the garden. Fast forward a couple more generations. Abraham had a grandson named Jacob. Jacob, as the Bible tells us, wrestled with God. He wrestled with God all night. And then the scriptures tell us that the heavenly figure with whom he wrestled didn't overtake him. In fact, it tells us that Jacob was even prevailing. It was as if Jacob was about to win this wrestling match. But then this heavenly being touched Jacob's hip socket, causing it to pop out a joint, immediately subduing him. But Jacob wouldn't let go. He hung on to the man and told him, I won't let you go until you bless me. So then the man told him, your name shall no longer be Jacob, but Israel. Your name shall no longer be Jacob, but Israel, which means Isra, wrestled, and El, short for Elohim, God, wrestled with God. Jacob walked away in the morning. After wrestling with God, he walked away with a limp. But he went forth as Israel. And this is where we get the name Israel. But do you see, Jacob, or Israel, was in the line of Abraham. Through your line, Abraham, I'm going to fix the world. And from this point on, Abraham's line would have a proper name, Israel. So what is Israel's purpose? Israel's purpose was to fix the world, to fix what was broken. Through your line, Abraham, I'm going to fix it all. Israel was the mechanism by which God would save the world. Now, what happened? What happened to Israel? They wandered, and they wandered some more, and they continued to wander. They were unfaithful. They were rebellious. They produced wild grapes. But guess what? The Lord wasn't caught off guard by that. The Lord wasn't in heaven wringing his hands thinking, oh, now what? Now what? This isn't the way I thought it would all happen. Did you notice in Jacob, who later became Israel, Jacob wrestled with the Lord and he walked away with a limp because he was bruised by God. He was bruised by the Lord, but he walked away Israel. He was wounded by the Lord, but he walked away as Israel. The mechanism by which God would save the world would be bruised on the path to salvation. You seeing all these connections here? How the Lord wrote the gospel all through the Old Testament? We're hearing whispers of the gospel. Even here in the story of Jacob, who later became Israel, remember, it's just a model because what we're really hearing is the story of a new and better Jacob, a new and better Israel, who would wrestle with God and it would be bruised by God. For what purpose? To save the world. Through Abraham's line, the Lord would save the world. And Matthew labors to tell us in his gospel, which opens with this, the book of the genealogy of Jesus Christ, the son of David, the son of Abraham. And then we get the full genealogy of Jesus, starting with Abraham and ending with Joseph, the husband of Mary, of whom Jesus was born, who is called the Christ. The Lord kept his promise and brought forth from the offspring of Abraham, the offspring of Israel, finally, the mechanism, better yet, the one who would save the world. And so this is why Jesus is telling his disciples, I am the true vine. I'm the true vine. I'm the true Israel. I'm the faithful Israel. I'm here to do all the things that Israel couldn't do. Israel couldn't be faithful. I will be faithful. Israel before me failed. I will not fail. I'm the true Israel. And Jesus drops this bomb by telling them simply being in the line of Abraham isn't enough. I know that's what you've been conditioned to believe your whole life, but it's not enough because everyone in the line of Abraham, everyone in the line of Israel, all the way down the line, every last one of them failed to uphold the Lord's standards. True Israel is here to do what Israel couldn't do. So he tells his disciples, I am the true vine and you are the branches. Whew. Oh, my word. Now, as you read on, I know I've already been approached by some of you this morning, talking about verses about certain branches being thrown into the fire. I know that's awfully disheartening. I know that's concerning. But I just want to tell you, if you have been, read Romans 11, okay? In your small groups today, read Romans 11. And to know that if you are part of the Lord, if you put your faith in the Lord, you have been, what it tells us in Romans 11, grafted in. You are not one of the branches that's going to be cut away. You have to think about the branches that are being cut away in terms of this bigger picture of Israel. Israel, the nation Israel, by and large, rejected Jesus. They rejected Jesus. There was still a faithful remnant, a faithful vine. But many rejected him, and yes, were thrown to the side. But if you're a believer in Jesus Christ and trust in his work, you've been grafted in, and there's nothing that's going to change that. Believers don't lose their salvation. And so this is what he's addressing at the most basic level. And now he's telling the disciples, I'm going to go away. How are you going to remain in me? How are you going to, even though I'm not present, I'm the vine, you are my branches, you are connected with me. And he goes on to say, verse 5, I am the vine, you are the branches, whoever abides in me and I in him, he it is that bears much fruit. And again, we're hearing now echoes of what we just read earlier from Psalm 80 and Isaiah 5. Wild grapes? No, you that you're grafted in, you're not going to produce wild grapes because I'm abiding in you. You are going to produce much fruit. You think it's an accident that Paul in Galatians talks about the fruit of the Spirit? It was not. He is alluding to this very principle right here. And when he starts talking about love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, gentleness, faithfulness, self-control, he's saying these are things that you will have as a byproduct of the fact that you have been grafted into the true vine, and you will yield good fruit. You know why? Because Jesus Christ yielded the perfect fruit, and you're now grafted in with him, and you now will produce the fruit that is reflective of his character. Not your own, but his. This is why this is such a beautiful metaphor that he unfolds for us. And let me just close with this idea, is that he says in verse 5, for apart from me, you can do nothing. Apart from me, you can do nothing. To be a part of the true vine, he says you have to abide in me. You have to abide in me. Yet on the other hand, he's telling us, but apart from me, you can do nothing. See how that works? Who's doing the work here? And what do I need to do? What do I need to do to be a part of this vine? This is one of the wonderful truths of sanctifications. He commands us to do something, but he also equips us to do the very thing he commands. You will produce fruit because he's got you. He's got you. If you abide in me, verse 7, and my words abide in you, ask whatever you wish, and it will be done for you. You are nourished by the vine, and you are made like the vine. And as soon as your desires, as soon as he occupies your heart, your desires start to look like his desires. Your desires are reflections of his desires. You'll be so tightly grafted into the vine that asking anything outside of his character will seem foolish to you. That's why you can read that verse and say, ask whatever you wish and it will be done for you, because you'll be so knit in with him, so grafted in with him that it doesn't even occur to you to ask for something that is outside of his design. So don't ever forget that. You have been grafted in. You are part of the true vine, the true Israel. And because of that, you are the Israel of God, is what we read in Galatians chapter 2, I believe. Don't forget that. Yes, there is the greater Israel, but you have been grafted into it, and you are as much Israel as Abraham. You are more connected with Abraham than a Jew that has genetic connections back to Abraham, because you are part of this vine. You are more connected with Israel than even someone who in their genealogy has Abraham in their heritage that doesn't trust Christ. Don't forget that. You are part of the true vine. Let me pray. Dear Heavenly Father, how unbelievably special it is to realize that you abide in us. And because you abide in us, we can do your work. So help us to take up your cross, not because that we're special people. We're not. But we thank you that your Son is special. And we thank you for the true vine, the true Israel, who wasn't content to leave us groping after righteousness, groping after goodness, but instead just grafted us in to who he is. So now remind us that through the work of Jesus Christ, we are united with him forever, the true Israel. And it's in Christ's name that we pray. Amen. All right. Have a good time in your small groups. And if you have questions, let me know. I'm around, okay? Lord be with y'all. Mm-hmm.